and we're thrilled to have everybody here today. But before I turn everything over to these ladies, just allow me to share a little bit about our Women of UGA signature programs, Mentorship Monday. This was established in 2018 as a professional development series featuring notable UGA women. Sorry. Each installment of these series will offer new perspectives with keynote and panel style reflections and concluding with a question and answer session. We are excited. Sorry, things keep popping up on my screen. We're excited to continue to provide quality networking professional development in this virtual format. But we would like to take a moment today to just thank all the donors of the Women of UGA Scholarship Fund. Thanks to supporters like you, we've established a Georgia Commitment Scholarship and an endowed scholarship. Join us this fiscal year as we increase our giving to impact the outstanding scholars and help break down financial barriers to a quality education. Make your gift today by visiting the Women of UGA website on the alumni.uga.edu website. Now to our moderator and panelists. This is where we would usually provide a standard bio for everyone. But since today's program is all about building your personal brand, we're going to let them show you how it's really done. We are all in for some gems today, so get ready to take your notes as we hear from Cherie Levy, Erica Davis, Meredith Dean, and Jody Murnick. Cherie, thank you to serve as our moderator today, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much. What an honor to be here. And I know we're all riding high. Our conversation prior to this was very much so about the #1 Bulldogs and having a little hope and fear and all that's mixed up, and how much fun we're having with this football season. I have the privilege of talking with these three ladies and introducing them to you today. The pre-call was so good that I found myself taking notes. I learned a ton from that call. And so I'm really looking forward to today. As you build your career and your brand as a professional, I find it's really useful to have your current resume as a PDF, have yourself on LinkedIn so that people can find your bio that way, and to have a short profile and then a longer profile bio and an elevator pitch to present yourself in various situations. And so my running joke is, because I'm a talker, that I needed a, high-rise building for my elevator pitch, because I was always trying to like cull it down and make it more precise and make it crisper and have more impact. So I'm going to try, as much of a talker, I get nervous introducing myself. So I'm going to try to concisely articulate. So I'm the co-founder of the Southern Coterie, the Southern Seas Summit, and those are resources for female entrepreneurs. I also am a co-editor of Guide to Athens and Bulldog Illustrated, and I contribute to publications like the Brunswick News. And basically, I've created businesses that have these really strong communities, and that's what I like to do. I like to foster community, and I like to spotlight the people in those communities and shine the light on them. And so this is a perfect fit for me today, because Jody, Meredith, and Erica are a part of my Bulldog alumni community, and I'm so excited to introduce them. So let's start with Erica. How about you go first with your elevator pitch?
Thank you. Hey, ladies. So excited to see your faces, even though it's virtual. And thank you guys for having me at the Women of UGA. My name is Dr. Erica Davis, and I am the Chief Communications Officer for the State Road and Tollway Authority, the Georgia Regional Transportation Authority, and the Atlanta Region Transit Link Authority. That is a lot. It's 3 state agencies in one. And this is the second time I've actually done that for state government. So that says a lot about what they will do. They will have you working 3 jobs, 1 salary. I don't advise that for everybody. But I am here and pleased as punch to be here. I serve on the UGA Alumni Board of Directors, but I also serve on the Kennesaw State Alumni Board of Directors. So you see, this is habitual with me, this thing about multitasking and sharing myself in the public sector. I love what I do. I love working for the public. I love working with our students at UGA. Go Dogs. I had to put that plug for our brand in there. And I am a proud mother of a double dog as of May 28th, May this year. And she is now a law student at UGA. So yes, that means I probably have absolutely no money whatsoever left in my bank account. Just kidding. And so I have the unique pleasure of balancing being a mom, just like everybody else, and being a professional. And sometimes being a mom, you forget your brand, because as soon as you become a mom, you become, I am Jessica's mom as soon as I step on campus. So what I'm here today is to help you remind yourself of who you are before the kids, who you are for whatever brand somebody else may have given you, and so that you can be true to yourself, so that your internal brand can be reflected in your external brand. And so it is my pleasure to be here, and thank you for the opportunity.
Awesome. Jody, how about you?
Hi, ladies. Like Erica, I am so excited to be here today. This is my first time. So just a warning, I've never done this before, but I am so excited to do this with the University of Georgia. In my professional life, I am a brand and strategy consultant. I've spent my entire career in sales and marketing. I began my career selling advertising for citysearch.com back when the internet was a brand new thing. That tells y'all how old I am. And I've moved on to many big brand companies, General Mills, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, always holding different brand management positions. And then about 7 or 8 years ago, when my second child was born, I went into consulting. And I work as a consultant leading projects in brand and innovation. I work a lot on brand divestitures and acquisitions. And for me, one of the things I love about building your personal brand is my personal brand became more and more important. And I've learned also in my career that I love what Erica said about being a mom, because throughout this, I am also the mom to 3 now. And you learn to really expand your brand and to not be afraid to pivot your brand. And I think I love watching how brands evolve over time, how brands in the market, that's what I work on, how brands in the market evolve and what they mean to their consumers. And I love this exercise and thinking about all of our personal brands and how we evolve and how we pivot and how we put that face forward with our consumers and really choosing our audiences. And I know we'll talk about that on this call. I think that's an exciting point too, is talking about how do you present your brand face depending on your audience. So I am super excited. It's been way too long since I was back in Athens. I live in New Jersey, so the wonder of Zoom is that I get to participate today. So I'm so excited to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you here too, both of you. And let's see, Meredith.
Hey there. Last but not least here, I am so excited that I get to be on this panel with Erica and Jody and see all of your beautiful faces. It was wonderful being in Athens this weekend for homecoming. It was incredible. I owe my entire career to UGA, Grady College of Journalism. So my background is I've worked in news, so CNN, Fox, and CBS. And then also love the Student Alumni Council with the Alumni Association. So very grateful for them. But during the day for my 9 to 5, I run Ryan Seacrest Studios at Levine Children's Hospital in Charlotte, North Carolina. And then for my 5 to 9, I have my own company called The Dean's List, digital branding and career consulting that's focused on building community. I think that one of the most important things with your brand is focusing on your values. So one of those values that I try to live day in, day out is how are we looking for ways to empower all people? And I know that you all do that in everything that you do day to day. So really focusing on the words that you speak to other people and how is that lifting other people up. So I'm excited that we're going to be able to share today, and I'm looking forward to get to knowing more of you. Also, hey, Barbara, I love the mask.
Awesome. So we decided to, a buzzword lately has been imposter syndrome. So if you're dealing with your personal brand, you have got to get over that quickly, right? So feeling like a fraud or that you don't belong in the room with despite degrees from the University of Georgia, no less, and titles and years of experience and specific training. And so when we were talking the other day, Erica was just so empowering on this. She understands her internal brand, and she takes it into meetings with her. She takes it when she's dealing with the media. And so she's going to share some really powerful tips on how she establishes her values from the start and knows it when she goes into a room and feels powerful and strong.
Okay. So hi, ladies. I'm back. Barbara, I swear I love that mask. That is the cutest thing ever. So we're going to have a conversation because I'm a relaxed person. I can tell you, you cannot see my feet, but I have nothing on them but my feet right now. So we're going to take a minute and be relaxed. This whole, we were having a great conversation. And when we started talking about internal brand, I started telling the ladies about a story that happened with my daughter recently. And my daughter's a law dog. So she's in law school. She calls me and she says, Mom, I just I'm feeling all this pressure. And I said, what's the pressure that you're feeling other than just, your studies and law? And she said, I walk into the classroom. I'm so afraid that when I raise my hand, if I say something stupid, that I'm representing every woman in the room, and particularly every African-American woman in the room. And I just kind of paused and I said, what are you saying? And she goes, listen, in our first year law class, there are 200 students and about, I think 17 of us are African-American and half of us are women. And so everybody looks at you and I'm afraid that I'm going to let down women. I'm afraid that I'm going to let down Black women when I open my mouth if I say something that is wrong or doesn't make sense. And then I had to think to myself, oh my gosh, she's 20 and she knows that she graduated high school with an associate degree already, and she's a smart kid. But I said, I'm 52 and I deal with this still now. Like that transition from 20 to 52 doesn't change. When you walk into a room, you have that moment, particularly we as women, where we are the only one seated at the table, right? And you say to yourself, am I good enough to be in that room? Do I have a right to be in that room? Is this place at the table that they've created for me, do I deserve to be here? And can I compete with everybody around the table? So what I want to share with you is that we have, before we can get to our external brand, an internal brand to deal with, right, ladies? We have the you, I call it, that you compete with. Because you're thinking about, you're competing with everybody in the room, but the person that you compete with is yourself. And no one can outdo you doing you. And so, and no one can criticize you and be your own worst enemy than you. And so if you don't deal with the you that you compete with, you cannot compete with anyone else. All right. Amen, church. Okay. So first, let's deal with brand identity. What is brand identity? So for a corporation or a business, a brand identity is the visual elements of a brand, right? Your color, design, logo, the identity, and that distinguishes your brand from the consumers, from in the consumer's mind from anybody else, right? Right. But for you personally, what is your brand identity? And so I redefine what they say a corporate brand identity is for you personally as a woman. I said, your brand identity is how you see yourself, your race or your gender, how you look, your physical design, how God made you, your name, who you are, where you came from, your family, all that baggage you carry with you that distinguishes you in your own mind before you can ever be a thought on someone else's mind. That is your brand identity. And some of us carry things like, when I say where you came from, if you didn't come from a wealthy family, if you came from rural South Georgia, I'm from LaGrange, Georgia. And so when I walk in the room and I'm with everybody who's from the city of Atlanta and from Buckhead and Alpharetta, anywhere, Sandy Spring, any affluent place, and I'm from little old LaGrange, I remind myself that great things come from LaGrange. That's an example. And one of them was our former assistant athletic director, Carla Williams, who is now the first woman athletic director in Charlottesville, UVA. So I remember, I can't remember my own greatness. I remember that, wait a minute, there are good things that come from LaGrange. So from wherever you are. And I also remember my name. When my daughter stepped onto UGA's campus, she walked into the classroom of 300 people. Y'all remember that? How intimidating that can be. You don't want to raise your hand. You don't want to say anything. And she was like, I'm sitting in the back. I said, no, you're sitting in front. And you realize who you bring into that classroom with you. The same thing with that meeting. You're not just bringing yourself. You're bringing everybody who helped make you who you are. I told her, you come from a long line of educated people. You come from a long line of strong women, not just me, your grandmother, your 91-year-old grandmother who still lives alone, is driving herself, who worked for her whole life. I said, that's who you bring into the room. So you never walk into the room by yourself. You carry with you everybody who wanted you to be in that spot and who worked very hard to get you there. So that she was like, all right, it clicked. I still do it today. I walk in that room and I hear my dad's voice reminding me of where I came from, of who I came from, because that is my internal brand identity, right? So how do we evaluate our brand identity? How do we go from being these babies with no identity whatsoever to these women who struggle with who we are? It's because from childbirth to college, somebody else gives you a brand. And that's the truth. How does it work? If you're a parent, we're guilty of this. If you have more than one child, you have branded your children. That's the middle child. That's the problem child. That's my good one. That's the one that gives me no trouble. And no, you don't say it's your favorite, but you're saying which one is your favorite without you saying which one is your favorite. It's what we put on our children. And so sometimes we get it, because I still tell my brother, you know, I'm the good one. You know, I'm the oldest one. I'm the one that didn't give mom any trouble. That is my family brand. Then by the time you get to middle school and high school, you're getting a whole set of brand by the people that you hang out with, your activities, your gifts, your cliques, the cheerleader, the nerd, the smart, the artsy one. And then when you leave out of high school, they give you superlatives. They're branding you already, right? Most comedic or class clown, best dressed, most likely to succeed, best all around. And so you go into college with whatever you were branded with the last time in high school. And then when you get to college, same thing. You're branded on campus for the activities that you do. I was, you say I was homecoming queen. Me, I was leadership UGA. I was an orientation leader. When you run into people on campus, you're talking about what you did on campus and where you identify. That's your brand identity. But when you graduate college, that's your opportunity to rebrand yourself. Everything that you've had before, you have an opportunity to start afresh and anew. And that's a process. It's a process for you to be able to figure out, who am I when I'm starting out on a job? Who do I want to be when I walk into the room? Who do I want people to see? Well, I need to know who I am first. And then I need to believe what I know about myself. So when we talk about conquering imposter syndrome, once we understand, you know that you're smart. Every woman on this call is a beautiful, intelligent woman. Whether you believe it or not, I see it in you. And so how do you not lose sight of everything that you've accomplished to be where you are? Even if you're just starting out on a job, you've accomplished getting out of college. That is no mean feat to be able to walk through the arch or wherever you graduated from. To be able to graduate is an accomplishment. And everything that you did before leading up to that point is accomplishment. So how do you not lose sight of everything that you've managed to build and walk into a room and feel like an imposter, that you don't belong to be there? So I have some quick tips. Tip number one, and this is the same training that I give to all of my commissioners that I report to, all the leaders of state agencies and organizations, when they get ready to do a media interview or a job. Look, if it's the same thing as a job interview, you're going to be asked a set of questions and you got to be able to do what? Be vulnerable and authentic. All right. What does that mean? Authentic leadership is demonstrated through the humanity shown in our vulnerability. That means you got to be okay with not being perfect. Dead silence, I know. Because all we are told, everything that we read, everything that we see is to achieve this certain level of perfection that is just impossible for us to be. Remember, I said, no one can beat you being you. And so when you are being authentic, this is the best me. This is the best me at 165 pounds. This is the best me at 125 pounds. This is the best me at 255 pounds. This is the best me in my brown skin. Yes, this is the best me in my cafe au lait colored skin. This is the best me in my peach skin. And this is the best me in my alabaster skin. Whatever it is, you bring your authentic, vulnerable self. This is me at 52. This is me at 65. This is me at 25. This is me at 45. This is me in menopause. Whatever it is, ladies, be authentic and be vulnerable. The second thing, do not pretend to be something you're not. One side of imposter syndrome is fearing of being found out or exposed as a fraud. You can't be exposed as a fraud if you're being your true self. So as Sherry said, on your resume, put the truth. When you interview, tell the truth. I have no problem saying, yeah, no, I don't do that. I don't know how to do that. I told the ladies, I said, when I interview for a job, I said, listen, if you're looking for a spin doctor, that is not me. I don't do spin. I'm one heck of an Olivia Pope. Now, I know crisis and I can help you get out of crisis, but we're going to tell the truth. If it's bad, we're going to say it's bad, and then we're going to say what we're doing to fix it. But I am not going to be something that I'm not. And you can't make me be something that I'm not. So don't pretend to be something that you're not. Number 3, leverage mentors to learn and grow. All right. We need to, as women, normalize leaning on others in times that we don't feel that we measure up. Oh my gosh, take the cape off. I'm about to release you right now, everybody. Take the cape off. We are not super women, right? But we are women who are super. There's a difference. And so therefore, we have to be able to lean on somebody and normalize calling somebody and asking them for help. I have my cheer squad. I have my crew, and they know they're going to get a text from me, and I'm going to say, let me tell you what I did. I acted a royal because they made me so mad in this meeting. I know I did not bring my best game. I did not. And they'll say, girl, what did you say? And I'll tell them, and they go, yep, no, that was not your best self. But how can I recover, guys? What do I need to do? Or if I'm just feeling just not myself, I have a crew. I have mentors above me. And guess what, y'all? I have mentors who are younger than me. My daughter, I got, social media. I'm old school marketing and comms. We got Meredith here, who is the grand dame of that. But Jody and I were saying, yeah, no, that's not us, Meredith. You're going to handle the social media in that part of it. And I will call my daughter and I'll say, okay, explain to me TikTok. Help me understand that, because now we're talking about doing TikTok for my agency. How is that going to be useful? I don't have a problem with being mentored by anybody who knows something that I don't. And it's okay for us to normalize saying, I don't know, but I'm willing to learn. Get mentors to learn and grow from. 4th thing, lean into your strengths and hire for your weaknesses. This is for the women who manage. And this is for the women who will manage, because I'm speaking that into existence for you. All right. Know the difference between knowing a little about a lot and being an expert on a key set of tasks. All right. Realize that you have strengths and weaknesses. I need you to embrace the talents and skills that you have, but hire for the ones that you don't have. And let me tell you, don't feel bad about it. Say, hey, I have a marketing director. I'm like, you are a genius at marketing, but I know communications. I know community relations. I know that, but I hired you to be my marketing guru. I want you to do it. So when we have a marketing meeting, he leads. And it's nice because I'm a woman and I can permit him to lead. Check that. So he leads and I sit back. But when they assume that he's the final decision maker, he knows me well enough because he knows the brand that I've set for myself, and he'll stop and say, wait, because everybody assumes the man in the room is the leader. And he'll say, no, Erica's my chief. I'm her director. She has to make that decision. And then I step in and do what I do best. So you got to lean into your strength and hire for your witnesses. And women, don't be insecure when you have somebody on your team who knows more than you about a subject. Don't do it. One of the most empowering things I ever had for me, even when I was on Black Alumni Leadership Council, we had Dom Holloman, and she was like, you know what, you're good at strategic planning. I want to create just a position committee, and I need you to do our strategic plan. That's a woman to a woman. She was the president, but she said, you know what? I want to create a space for you to do what you do good at, and then I'm going to do what I'm good at. And I did our strategic plan, and we went forward, and it made space for me to become president later. So what I'm telling you, ladies, is if you're in a position of power or influence, and you have someone younger than you, don't put your foot on her head. Lift her up and help her grow. If she's good at something that you're not, highlight her, spotlight her, because she wants to be in your seat, but she don't want to take your seat. Do you understand what I'm saying? Don't do that. Be secure in your internal brand so that you can help somebody else build theirs. Last thing, and I'm gone, ladies. Be open to acceptance and success. Self-acceptance is required to overcome imposter syndrome. Perfection is not needed to be worthy of your own success and your accolades. You don't need to be perfect to get it. I remember I got 2019 Women Who Mean Business by the Atlanta Business Chronicle in 2019. And I was sitting in that audience shaking, and I watched all those powerful women take up that stage. And I thought to myself, what am I doing in this room? These women are running corporations. I work for state government. And then I had to smack myself and say, girl, you are running brands for 3 different state agencies at one time. This is the second time you've done it. You've worked for the Atlanta Beltline, which is one of the largest transportation projects in the metropolitan Atlanta. I started naming my stuff. Do you understand what I'm saying? I started speaking to myself and encouraging myself. And I said to myself, you have a right to be in the room because you have something that is different from any other woman in this room. So embrace your inner unicorn. That's my favorite thing. I tell all the young women that I mentor, be a unicorn. Be different than anybody else in the thing that you know you do well at. And then accept the success that comes to you. All right? Accept the blessings that will overflow and overtake you because you've been doing the right thing at the right time for the right reasons. And that's all I got, ladies. I hope you have been blessed and I hope it works for you. And I look forward to talking and hearing with you more.
So y'all now see why Erica is a new member of my committee. I'm the champion of the events committee for the Alumni Association Board. And I was like, I need an Erica on my shoulder as often as possible to encourage and empower. And I feel like everything you say, I just want to say amen. So thank you so much for sharing. I think this moves really well into Jody's background. She's primarily consumer packaged goods world, and she tends to think of her personal brand in a similar framework to a brand she is marketing. So what is that product's unique selling proposition? And so she looks at branding and personal brand and says, what is your brand essence? What makes you unique? So Jody, will you speak to that for a few moments?
Absolutely. I am so excited to talk about this. And I spent a lot of time thinking about this. I'm actually going to share my screen because as Sherry said, I have spent most of my career working on brands, working on all the brands that we all know and love, everything from Tide to Listerine to a million other kinds of brands that you keep in your pantry and keep in your closet. And they all really do have one thing in common. The ones that are great are the ones that you know immediately in your heart and in your mind exactly what they stand for. I talk about Tide. We all know that's a brand that just works. You've got laundry, you need Tide. And that it's not an accident. Procter & Gamble spent a long time building that brand and building that equity. So when I think about building my own brand and staying on brand, I think of it very similarly to how I would any brand I was marketing. So I am going to attempt to screen share, and I hope this works. Let's see. Here we go. Let's see if I can do this. Let's see. There we go. Everybody got it? So I really think of it in a few different buckets. I think of it like this pyramid. And I'm going to start at the bottom because it really takes off of where Erica left off, your reasons to believe. You know, you're sitting there and you're wondering, how am I going to create my own personal brand? I think for a lot of us, you think about, well, what is it? I kind of know who I am. I know where I came from. I know my background, but how do I package that up in a way that really makes sense to presenting myself? Because you've got to tie it up in a neat little bow for other people to get it. And I'm going to tell y'all one more dirty little secret before I get into it. Most people are so busy thinking about themselves, they're not spending nearly as much time worrying about you as you think they are. I promise. They are so focused on their own brand. But as you start to build your brand, the first thing you want to think about is, what are your reasons to believe? You know, when we talk about other brands on the market, you know, you talk about IBM, an IBM computer. Well, the reason to believe is it's got that Intel inside. You know, when you talk about OxyClean, Oxy gets the stain out and it's got all these cool ingredients they're going to talk about. Those are your reasons to believe. But when we're talking about us and building our own personal brands, our reasons to believe are, what are your accomplishments? You know, where'd you graduate from? I know you've got a great degree. You've got a degree from the University of Georgia, nonetheless. You've got all these different things that you've achieved. You've got your experience. What roles have you had? What jobs have you had? And what successes did you have while you were there? In your mind, if nowhere else, don't be afraid to tout those. Tell yourself every single good thing you did and remind yourself over and over and over again. Your relationships. And then your own personal superpowers. I joke. In fact, I've had a few bosses who've told me my personal superpower is that I could sell ice to an Eskimo. And occasionally when I get an assignment and I think, who in the world am I going to divest this brand to? And I think, Jody, you could sell ice to an Eskimo. Let's figure out where this fits. And that's sort of your bucket of your reasons to believe. And that's really the next piece on that ladder is your USP, your unique selling proposition. Every single person on the planet has one. The trick is figuring out what's yours. What's your unique reason, the unique thing you bring to the table that nobody else can? And Erica talked about this too. You are the best person at being you. Sometimes though, it takes us a little while to figure out, what exactly does that mean? What does that mean I'm the best at doing? And, you know, for me, I say, you know, when I try and put it into writing, an example is, you know, I am a relentless creative marketer. My clients know I will not stop until we achieve their goals. And that's, you know, over and over and over again, when I think about how I brand myself and how I give my elevator pitch, you know, I say that all the time, I am relentless. And then the next piece of it is, what's your vision? Where do you want to be? What's your goal for yourself? And that doesn't have to always be articulated to every person you meet. Sometimes it's just something you keep inside of you. Where am I going? What do I want to do? And the overall piece of that, I think of it as your brand essence. And to me, your brand essence is, how do you do it? You know, Erica talked a lot about communicating authentically. And authentic is really a great trend and buzzword right now, but it's so poignant. And it's, you know, one of the toughest things about being authentic is being honest with yourself and figuring out you can't be authentic if you don't take a second and look inside and you think, who am I? And how do I communicate that? And what's real for me? You know, I talk about, for me, a brand essence. When I think about my brand essence with my clients, I think about being a trusted friend, a trusted confidant. So that every bit of messaging I'm doing, whether I'm on a Zoom call, whether I'm sending an email, even if I'm sending an email trying to get business, I try and start it with, what's in it for my client? Hey, you know, I just saw this article. I thought you might be, it made me think of you. I thought you might be interested. I know how much you like blah, 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 business, any business related thing. I saw that Shearing Plow was about to divest a bundle of brands. I thought you might be interested. I didn't know if anybody brought it to you yet. Things like that, even when I really have no skin in the game, trying to talk to my clients, my idea is always as a trusted friend. I'm coming to you with something to offer. So when I think about, selling myself, that's my overall, brand essence. And I would encourage all of you to think of your own. And it might be unique to the role you play, to your job. I thought a lot after our call, Erica is a straight shooter. And that really, to me, encompassed her brand essence. Something in her brand essence is going to be about being really honest and direct, because that's what you get from her. And I think the more we all stay true, when you're in your business communication, staying true to your brand essence, the only way to do that if it's authentically you, right? You can't stay true to someone you're not, but we can all stay true to who we are. And for me, that's what I really try and think about when I think about bundling up my personal brand. It's all about, do these things line up together? And then the next piece of it is not being afraid to pivot. My brand is not the same today as it was when I was 20 and coming out of school. And talk about a girl who had imposter syndrome. My goodness. I got my first job at the University of Georgia sitting in my sorority house lunchroom. And I was lucky enough to run into a recruiter. And I ended up talking my way into a recruiting job at a software company in Austin, Texas, where every single person in that room had an Ivy League education. And nobody worried more than I did that they had accidentally hired me. And I thought, the only thing I can do now is figure out how to show them I'm worth it. And that would be my other piece of advice as you bundle your brand and figure out who it is as you move through your career, is hard work. You know what we can all bring to the table every single time is whether or not you think you deserve to be there or not, you're there. And nobody can argue with hard work. Put in the work, do the work, be buttoned up. You'll earn your place at the table.
Love it. When we met last week, ladies, everybody blew me away. And I took a lot of our conversation. And then when we met with students Friday with the Alumni Association, with the student councils and whatnot, it's amazing how all of this threads the needle. They had been having sessions lately about building their brand, about learning how to brag better, which brag is such a bad word, but it's also part of knowing your brand essence, like you're talking about, and being able to articulate it. And a lot of times it's, I told the girls about this book, Brag Better, Master the Art of Fearless Self-Promotion. We just read it in our Southern Sea book club. But basically, the students even were saying they're having sessions right now about being able to articulate their accomplishments, about being able to say who they are, to future hires, for internships, for everywhere they go. So I think this session has been so good. I think we'll wiggle from these 2 points, Meredith, into how you can show your brand, especially digitally, since that's an age we're in. So do you mind sharing your screen since you're the master?
Thank you for saying that. High praise here.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it just, the second we all pulled up her Instagram, we knew what her brand essence is. It's bright, happy, empowering. You'll see.
And the most important thing to talk about too is I couldn't agree more with everything that Jody and Erica have said, because nothing replaces your in-person connections, your in-person personal brand. But we've seen during COVID-19 more than any time ever, your first impression is going to be online most of the time. And this is not just professionally, it's also dating for some people. So I do not have a husband, I don't have a dog, I don't have a plant, but this is how I have time for my 9 to 5 and my 5 to 9. And I've been working on this since my freshman year at Georgia. So the New Media Institute is really what helped me with creating my digital brand and understanding why it was so important. And it's what got me all my jobs as well. And it was funny because someone had said, why in the world would you have a personal website? You're not a famous person. You're not an actor. You're not an artist. but it's what helped these different companies actually waive the age requirement for me when I was applying to different internships. Because honestly, these digital assets, it's what's going to help you stand out. So I'm going to first bring up my online portfolio. I'm wearing red and black today because obviously homecoming, best weekend ever, beat Kentucky, we love it. But normally you'll see me always in light blue and white. So color is also a big part of your brand. What is in your closet that makes you excited, makes you stand out? And for me, it's light blue. Light blue is in city skylines. That provides inspiration for me. It's also in nature. It's a calming color. So not only can it be powerful, but it's also really calming. And a big part of my brand is also making sure that you have your nouns. So what kind of describes you really quickly? It's within your elevator pitch. I'm a university recruiter, community builder, career and branding consultant, speaker and entrepreneur. Think about what your nouns are so you can quickly pitch to people, this is what I have to offer. And then another thing is all of our funny, weird, unique facts about us, that's what's going to help us stand out. So I even have some of my likes and dislikes. One of the keynotes I did, it was hilarious. They gave me a thank you with all of my dislikes. They gave me a green banana. They gave me a thank you card with improper usage of your and your. It was hilarious. And I will never forget that group. And now I will continue to do stuff with them all the time. Their brand was to help me also memorize. I mean, it was so good. So of course, you want to have an online portfolio no matter really even what you're in. I've worked with biotech consultants. I worked with Miss America. I've worked with Chelsea Vaughn, who's a Georgia alumna from the last season of The Bachelor. So this is so much better than a one-page black and white sheet of paper that's a resume, right? Seeing logos of the different places you've worked, that you've worked at. This is Mentorship Mondays. That one was in person with Meredith Seacrest and Mamie, all incredible Georgia people. And had I not had those connections in person, I might have not gotten this job here, but it was my website that made me stand out to Deborah Norville when I worked at Inside Edition. I didn't even have to have an in-person interview. It was on the phone because she felt like she already knew me through my brand. And then of course you have to still have a resume, but you also stay consistent with your brand colors. Another thing is when you guys are collecting some of the logos of places that you've worked at or worked with, that's something that helps you create legitimacy, and it helps me with my imposter syndrome. What Erica was saying when she was telling herself, I've done this, I've done that. I've worked with the Beltline. I mean, that's huge. What if you could organize it within one online portfolio? So from working with NASCAR to Carolina Panthers, all sorts of fun people, I've loved it, but it also makes me feel more confident of, I've done this. And even though I might be the only woman or the youngest person in the room, I know that I can do this for my client. And then I'll move on to Instagram over here. So this is my company's Instagram. You'll see that my values are very strong within here. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is huge within my company. And we make sure that we don't just post about it, we live about it. It's what we do through all of our events. And we don't just talk about Black Lives Matter after George Floyd. We continue the conversation throughout the entire year and going forward. And we continue to support Black businesses, Black-owned businesses, and minority-owned businesses. So let's move over to my own personal brand also will represent that. You're seeing this blue is everywhere, right? It helps you stand out. So you can see that through any of the collaborations I do. And I make sure anyone I partner with shares those same values. And one mistake I made when I was early on in my career with Dean's List is I did not vet properly. Vet all the time before you start working with someone, because that is huge. And Gen Z is not going to work for companies that have something crazy about that company in the news, or they do not stand for the right things. So make sure that your brand is always representing that. And I would say also, is there anyone here that is kind of intimidated by digital branding? Anyone here? You can raise your hand. It's normal to be intimidated by it. And the thing is we have to take it in bite-sized pieces. So for me, I am only posting things when I have a dedicated amount of time in my calendar. I'm not sitting there on my phone all the time. I'm not gonna, even if I'm going to an event that I'm covering on social media, I'll take the content there and post it later. Be in person, be present, be authentic with the people that you're around. Otherwise, it'll take you over completely, and You always want to be aware of your industry, but do not compare yourself. And we keep bringing this back. Jody said this, Erica said this, but no one does you the way you do it. No one in this entire world. So I don't compare myself at all. I always will create more than I will consume, and I'll be aware of what's going on in my industry, but I'm not going to compare anyone to me. And it's what keeps me happy. And it's what I think it's just important that we always look for ways to empower other people and be cheerleaders for other people, because all of us are doing things differently. We all have different chapters, and that's a beautiful thing. And I'm sitting here taking a million notes from Erica and Jody because I have so much to learn from them, and we can all support each other in different ways. So hopefully that was helpful for the digital brand side.
It absolutely is. And to see how you bring all of that to life in such a clear and concise way. And I would recommend everybody go back and take some looks at both her accounts, because then you really begin to see how she threads the needle. You see her brand essence. She is executing everything that Jody and Erica talked about online really beautifully. And I think we all agree with that. Of course, because we could have had a session with each one of you individually for a Mentor Monday. So we are extending a little bit into our breakout time to wrap things up. But I did want to ask you ladies, if we want to go back through and say, basically one last final tip. I know my tip, I work alongside Hannah Gross-Close, who's a UGA alumna and the owner of Hinge Creative Company in Athens, and she hires all Georgia Bulldogs, and she has this incredible team. And I asked her for a tactical tip because she does a lot of my graphic arts for my company's brandings, and then also myself. And she, I said, what would your tip be? And she said, ask those people who are the closest and most trusted in your life, those that understand you best, what sets you apart and makes you different. Have them make a list of those adjectives. In the book, they call them superpower words. And like Jody mentioned, what's your superpower? And have them make a list of those adjectives, taking those attributes and comparing and mixing them with your core values. As Erica said, you've got the time right now to pull up and leverage up who you are. So mix them with your core values and then lean into what you make, and that'll help you make your decisions about your branding. So everybody's going to share a tip, but my personal challenge would be, what do you stand for? And as Jody said, what is your brand essence? What is your unique value proposition? I thought that was very important for all. Jody, what would you say is your most important tip?
I think without repeating all the stuff that we have said, there's been so much good information here, and I've been taking notes like crazy too. When I think about the best tips, most actionable tips I've been given in building a brand, one of the best ones is don't wear black to a networking event. Little black dresses have a presence and have a time and a place at a cocktail party, but when you're going somewhere to network, wear red. Wear a color that makes you stand out, because you know what? Guys can't do that either. If a guy walks in a red suit, he looks like Santa Claus. It does not, and it does not need to be anything crazy. Wear a red dress. It makes you stand out. It helps you be a little bit easier to notice. The other tip I had that was a great tip that was given to me, in women in presenting and speaking. A lot of women, when we're uncomfortable in meetings, we make statements that sound like questions, and our voices go up at the end. And especially when you're starting a career and really learning to find your voice, say it like you mean it. And one way to do that, when you really just need to be told physically how to do it, concentrate on bringing your voice down at the end of your sentence, so that people know it's not a question, it's a statement, and you mean what you say.
Meredith, what's your
so good? Those are awesome, Jody. And I'm going to stop wearing black sometimes to networking events. I stick with my light blue normally, but you're right. I tend to go to wearing black. So, all right. I wanted to give y'all some tips too that I think are really important, because as Gen Z is coming up, we've learned a lot of things from them. And that's why I think Erica mentioning earlier, talking about having a mentor that's younger than you, that is huge for me. Of course, having mentors that are older than me, but Gen Z is doing some incredible things. And so what I was reading about is that Gen Z is more optimistic about building a career network than their parents because of the digital world. It's easier to make connections now a lot of times than their parents' generation because of that digital world. Also, recent graduates of color are even more likely to perceive increased opportunity and equity through digital connections. So I think that one is huge in itself too. We can create TikTok resumes now. I mean, you can use these platforms for really good things online, and a lot of people are afraid of digital brands, but it's going to help a lot. So I think I hope that all of you, when you're looking at your digital brand and maybe it's a little intimidating right now, remember that it can be super, super helpful for you if you use it in the right way. And I couldn't have built my company without my digital brand and social media.
I love that. Mentors older and younger, good advice. And using digital. All right, Erica.
I was thinking, I was listening to Meredith and Jody, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, they got all the good stuff. I'm not sure what I have left to share. I think probably what I would say is, don't be afraid to rebrand yourself. Erica at 52 is not Erica at 20. I'm just telling you. And in fact, I'm thanking God that there was no social media Meredith when I was at Georgia. I'm just saying. Okay, I'm just being authentic and being myself. So Jody is my co-signer. We co-sign on each other. And so I just say, never be afraid to rebrand yourself, because I was different at 20 as I was at 30, as I was at 40, as I am at 50. And as my mother, who is 71, will tell me, I'll be an entirely different person at 70. And my grandmother tells me I'll be entirely different at 91. And so the greatest lesson I learned from that was recently my 75-year-old aunt graduated from college. And I was like, there would be people who be like, why are you doing it now? Because it's not like she was successful, but it was something that she wanted to do. And she rebranded herself now as college educated at 75. And so what I want you to do, and Jody talks about pivoting, don't be afraid of becoming who you are, continuously becoming, and then rebrand yourself to folks, because they will come back and say, I remember you. No. Now this is who I am. All right. Now yesterday I was probably a Shetland pony. Today I'm a unicorn. Okay. All right. So that would be my advice.
I love it. Why don't we take, since they gave us a little bit more time, why don't we take a question from the audience that I thought was really good. I am curious about how to use your brand to help break out of being typecast in your career. Who wants to take that one? That's a good one. Okay, Erica.
I will say, and this is not my advice, this was my first mentor boss. And I call her a mentor boss because you can have bosses, but they might not be mentors. And so she was my first mentor boss. And Jackie Vickers said to me, the best way to shut up your critics is by doing good work. And so that is what I have carried with me my whole entire life. So we women get brands that are put on us all the time. When we're assertive and we are confident, we go in the room, we'll get called and thought of as a word that rhymes with witch. Just being real. And we'll get typecast to do certain projects. We'll be put on certain projects based on what somebody pigeonholes us into and thinks that's our skill set. And so what we have to do, and we talked about this last time, is don't think of your job as the only place that you can harness and show your talents. If they're typecasting you in one place and think that you on your job can only do this, find something that you can do for someone else. And sometimes you might even have to do it for free. Hint, hint, University of Georgia. Sherry and I know you have gifts outside of your job that you can use. I use mine for the University of Georgia, mentoring young people, strategic planning, things that are entirely different from communications and marketing. And so what happens is, as you build your brand in other places, doesn't have to be just where you work, you have an opportunity to show yourself in a different light. and you can typecast, you can pull yourself out of somebody else's mold and point to something else that you do better, that better speaks to your brand.
I would say I want to jump on and add on that. And I think I see Sherry grabbing for her book. And I was going to say, don't be afraid when you do great work to talk about it. We are all trying so hard to be humble, and it's okay to be, you can still be humble, but also promote yourself.
That's right.
And there is, I joke all the time, living in the Northeast now, I can get away with saying a lot of things because I still say them like I'm from the South. And I think it's really about knowing your audience. And it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And you can promote yourself. When you do great work, don't be afraid to tell your boss to own that work. Because I think when we do that, we're able to lift ourselves up out of whatever the mold they've put us into. And quite frankly, also, not every typecast is bad. If you're being typecast as a really hard worker, great. Keep doing great work. I would say pick and choose the pieces of that typecast you like, and hold on to what you like, and find great reasons to believe for the things you don't, so that you can convince anybody who doesn't believe.
Jody, that's good, because your typecast could be your niche. It could just, you may not realize it. You may think of it as a typecast, but it may be a compliment to the fact that you do this really, really well, and they can't find anybody else but you to do it.
Right. Well, and I thought it was interesting, some of the notes I pulled out of this book too, that y'all keep articulating so well, which is so hilarious. I'm like, I love it. But something you just said, Jody, if you don't articulate your contribution to like even just a project you're on, your work may not be just speaking for itself. You may need to pull out what your contribution was and say it aloud, but you're bringing more value to the overall project for everyone. If everyone in the room begins to articulate their work that went into it, it's better. And then something else you said about knowing your audience, kind of reverse engineering your brag. Like we might brag differently in, like we need to know who we're bragging to and kind of work backwards. If it's a room full of men and we think what's going to impress them is how much money the project made, or or if we're in a room, just kind of, I love that piece of advice, is kind of knowing who you're talking to. But we really do have to learn. We can't expect everyone to know. We've got to learn to toot our own horn, somebody said in the audience, and that's so true. So true. And I'm looking back. Don't be afraid to break out. Let's see what else. The chat room is blowing up. It's so fun. Toot your own horn. Let's see any of the other nuggets. I think we got all the, somebody had a great piece of advice about bringing your voice down. I'd add to be very mindful of how often we say sorry as females. In our 99%, we don't need to say it, and we chip away at our own credibility when we do. So back to that, say it like you mean it. Somebody else liked your tip and said a great print color handbag is also a good conversation starter in a crowd. Certainly. Let's see.
Another piece of advice that people tend to forget with their digital brand that can be really effective is your email signature. So make sure that you all have, there's even a subtle line you can add of something maybe that you want to promote without directly saying it to people. It's in your email signature. And a lot of times you'll get a lot of click-throughs based on that one line. So we have a 20 under 20 awards coming up for my company. And I just have one line that says nominate an amazing, diverse 14 and 19-year-old student. And that's how I've gotten a lot of nominations just from networking with people without me saying, hey, 20 under 20 I have coming up. And newoldstamp.com is a really great email signature generator. If you all are interested, newoldstamp.com. There is a free version, a paid version. Just go for the free one.
That's a great piece of advice. And in this book, they were talking about if you want more speaking engagements, then don't put speaker at the end of your list of what you do. If you're not understanding why you're not getting more speaking gigs, and you have a writer, you have this whole list and you put it at the end, move it to the front if that's something you want. So it is, a lot of these digital like you're saying, I love, like I'll probably go and nominate somebody now from your signature. Okay, one last question. How do you balance how much personal information to include and not include in your digital presence? That's a good one.
That one I think is so up to every single person. There's no formula for it because some of us are really comfortable with it. Some of us are not comfortable whatsoever, and there is no right or wrong. So it is what your gut tells you. There's some things I'm very comfortable with sharing. And I think that in order to even be vulnerable, we need to share some things, especially hardships with other people, if you know it could help other people. But if you're not comfortable with that, that's totally okay. Also, if you hate social media, that's fine too. But LinkedIn is very helpful. LinkedIn, I think if you don't want social media, just have a LinkedIn, because I also worry about people that have no digital presence. That to me shows that they might not be in touch with the world right now, or they're hiding something. So have a LinkedIn if you can, but don't feel like you have to share everything. And especially when it comes to security reasons, I mean, you know, if you're on vacation, people know your house is empty. So that's another thing, is when do you want to post, or do you have someone that's watching your house during that time frame? So, and someone asked, Abby, you asked about thoughts on Zoom backgrounds. I think Zoom backgrounds can be wonderful and a subtle way to advertise for your company or what you have going on. But make sure that within the green screen background, things look normal and it doesn't look off or weird. A lot of people prefer actually just blurring the background. I think that's probably one of your best options. Like I see Jessica Haywood has hers blurred and it looks very, very professional still. And then you never have to worry about private information in the back.
As a person who works for state government, I will remind you, I'm going to jump in on Meredith and piggyback on her when she says it's what you're comfortable with. Also know your organization's social media policy. That is vital. Because if you don't read the manual, you pull out that employee handbook and look under the section of social media policy. Because I never saw a sadder thing than a teacher, and you guys might remember this, who went to Germany. It's her right to go vacation over the summer. She held up her stein of beer and found herself coming back over to Georgia, and she was fired because she did not read her company's policy, and she had put it, and she posted it on her Facebook. And so they, you know, teachers, alcohol, teaching children, and for that particular school. So I'm going to tell you, make sure you read your employer's employee handbook, their social media policy. At the same time, if you work for a governmental entity or even a high profile organization, we sometimes forget that we are not just brand ambassadors for ourselves on our public platform, on our personal platforms, but we also sometimes become brand ambassadors for our organizations. So Meredith will probably tell you, some people put where they work. You know, I would caution that unless you have your privacy settings together, and you remember that sometimes you post it, you kill it, it still comes up and it kills you. So you just really have to be careful. What was the young lady, Meredith and Jody, Teen Vogue magazine, who had that great dream job? I never want to see any of you get to your great dream job only to have something you posted as your authentic self on your personal social media when you were like 15 years old, and now you're 25 and you're finding yourself having to resign. Because your 15-year-old self is not even your 25-year-old self. So the stupid things you would post, you wouldn't post now as an adult. So just as you think about that, think about all the phases in your life, think about who you work for. And I don't know if Jody said it in our meeting, if you don't want your mama to see it, what you said, Jody, if you don't want
that's my line. Absolutely.
That's your line.
Listen, I deal more in social media. I feel like at this stage of my life, I have a teenager and I have two preteens right behind her, and I am learning Snapchat, Twitter, and all the other new things from her. And you know what I tell my kids over and over again? First of all, thank God I grew up in the age where there was no social media. There's no pictures of me in downtown Athens with one shoe trying to find myself late at night. But I will say that that's what I tell my kids, and I would say it here, if I wouldn't hang it on the door to my boss's office, I tell my kids, imagine your grandparents, the principal, and our rabbi are all going to see every single thing you post. And if you're comfortable showing that to them, then you go ahead and post it. Otherwise, I don't think it's necessary. And I do think it's probably also generational. And I think Meredith made a great point about how do we really, bridge the gap? Because I don't want to look irrelevant by not having enough social media. But at the same time, I'm very conscious of the fact that my Instagram page is full of vacations and pictures of my kids. And I think that really, I'm not quite sure that all of those pictures fit with the commercial brand I'm trying to present to my clients.
Right.
And I think it's a really tricky, interesting problem to think about. And the way that right now I solve it is LinkedIn is my business page. On LinkedIn, I talk about business and only business.
Right.
And on Facebook and Instagram, I do not connect to people who are not my friends in real life. I don't connect to business people on Facebook and Instagram because that's there. I kind of think of it, if I'm going to post pictures of the party I had in my backyard, if I wouldn't invite you to the party in my backyard, then you probably don't need to see the pictures.
I'm just going to hire Meredith is what I'm going to do.
Listen, thank you. That would mean the world to me.
That's what I'm going to do.
But something else to note is that for all my interns, I have 14 interns this semester for Seacrest and then 12 remote for Dean's List. And I look through every single one of my applicants' Instagrams. If they are private, I find someone who knows them and I get them to screenshot or screen record their entire profile because they represent me and they represent my company. And if it doesn't mesh with my values, I can't have them. I mean, I work at a children's hospital. I can't have kids see certain things.
Back to bet.
So it's very, very serious. And you're right. It's so much harder for young people, especially young women right now. And that's why I also teach kids on safe, healthy social media usage too. And I feel so bad. I have to run to a meeting. You all are amazing. I feel like we could talk for hours and hours here. Georgia Bond.
I know.
This has been a great session. So I am going to go ahead and kind of cut in here real quick. Thank you, ladies, for such a wonderful advice. I mean, I could not take the notes fast enough. So this is definitely a session I'm probably going to have to go back and rewatch the recording to get the rest of it. But before we go into breakouts, I did just want to encourage everybody else on here to mark your calendars for our last Mentorship Monday of the fall season. It will be on November 15th with Dr. Leah Brown. And then also don't forget, we've got registration coming up really soon. It'll open up probably later this week for our annual Cookies and Cocoa with Hairy Dog. So we hope to see all of your families on Sunday, November 14th. So stay connected with UGA and just visit the alumni calendar that is on the website. I am going to turn it over really quickly over to Raylyn to kind of explain the quick little breakouts we'll have this afternoon.
Thanks so much, Verna. Hi, everyone. I'm Raylyn. And thank you again, Cherie, Erica, Jody, and Meredith. I know you all are we know because of your branding that you all are super jam-packed with things today. So what we wanted to do is allow everyone this opportunity. Thank you all for staying on a little bit longer, but the conversation was so wonderful. We didn't want anything to end without getting we were going to get that blood from the turnip, right? So at this time, what we're going to do is we're going to have everyone break out into our breakout rooms. This will be totally random. And usually we do some things a little bit differently with the breakout rooms. We usually have like a host and they lead the discussion, but we think that with the conversation that was going to be taking place today, this will be a great opportunity for everyone to glean from each other, work together in these breakout rooms, and maybe present your elevator pitch and talk about maybe some of those superpowers that you have and really get to know like, okay, what do I need to do and take in as far as like my personal brand is concerned. So we want to give everyone empower everyone to have that hearty discussion. And to help, I'm still going to put a couple of questions in here just in case we have a shy room of ladies that aren't as ready to jump out there. As an introvert, usually, we're on a screen, so I feel safe in being able to speak this way. But I'll put those breakout, like just a couple of little things for you all to discuss until 1:30. We know that everyone has a jam-packed day, so we appreciate everyone for coming out to virtual Mentorship Monday. We look forward to seeing you all again soon. And for those who need to depart, you're welcome to do that now as we move into those breakouts. So thank you all so much and enjoy your afternoon.